I'd like to talk to you about your financial future, and I hope those figures become applicable to all of you as we go along. Whether you decide to buy stocks or bonds, or whether you put your money in a mutual fund or pick your own stocks or anything of that sort, the biggest financial asset is the value of your own earning power over the years. So that's really what you should focus on. If you're focusing on your financial future, because whether your 10% is worth 50,000 or 100,000 or 300,000, which would be 500,000 or a million or 3 million for all of you, whether it turns out to in a very large part on what you do in the next few years. All of you in this room have the brains to do extremely well in life. You've all got the energy to do extremely well in life. And then the question is, how do you apply it? And equally as important is in terms of the habits that you develop, in terms of what you do with yourself. When we hire people, we look for three qualities. We look for integrity, we look for intelligence, and we look for energy. You make your own decision on that. You can't change your IQ or how far you can, but you can elect to have integrity that matches anybody else's. And if you match that with intelligence, which you have, and energy, which you have, you will get an extraordinary result. Because you can have any habit you want to be. You can be lazy, you can be prompt, you can be late, you can be honest, you can cut corners. I mean, you have all these choices. And those are choices for you to make. Nobody else is going to make them for you. All I suggest is that you write down a list of what you admire, what you find contemptible, and decide that the ones on the admired side are ones you're going to acquire for yourself. And if you do that when you're young, it'll carry you through the rest of your life. And that's true in financial matters as well. You want to figure out where you don't want to be ahead of time and avoid that. And I get about a dozen letters a day from people who are having terrible problems. And there are two reasons why they have terrible problems. One is a number of them have had health problems of some sort. I mean, they have really been hit by or somebody in their family has been hit by some kind of catastrophic illness. And that is it's a terrible thing to happen to any family. And they run up bills they can't pay. And really only society can solve that one in terms of protecting people against that. That's just plain bad luck. But the other one is from people who run up credit card debt and they're facing bankruptcy, or they've been through bankruptcy once before, and they owe a whole bunch of money and they can't even pay the interest, let alone pay any principal. And half of my letters come from people like that, and that problem is avoidable. Catastrophic illness is not, but credit card debt is something you bring on yourself. And whether you're going to go into something, for many people, it'd be a fundamental choice, whether you're going to go into something you love or something that I think that it's very hard to find people when they get to be my age who say that they've loved what they've done all their life and feel it was very worthwhile, but they're terribly sad they made that choice because they didn't make a lot of money. I don't think anybody's almost everybody here will make enough money, unless they get some terrible habits along the way, to do reasonably well. And doing reasonably well in this country really is pretty darn good. I mean, it is. We'll both live in the same kind of houses. I live in that house from 41 years ago, and it's warm in winter and it's cool in summer and it's comfortable. And you'll live in a house that's similar. And what difference does it make if you have 50 more rooms or guest houses or all that? We'll drive the same kind of car. In fact, you probably drive a better car. I drive a car that's about 8 years old. I don't know what it's worth now, but it gets me around fine. I mean, I'm perfectly happy. We'll watch the same television, We'll work on the same computer pretty much. Other than that, I do what I like every day. I hope you'll do what you like every day to do. And I work with nice people. I hope you work with nice people. And there's 24 hours in the day, and those are where the hours go. So great wealth and something you love doing and something where you feel worthwhile doing it, for huge wealth where you trade off a lot of your principles would be a terrible mistake.
Would you now acknowledge your success more on yourself or from the help and teachings of others?
Well, I was very lucky in life. My heroes never let me down, and started with my dad, and then I had others in business, and so I have had great teachers, some formal teachers, some that were just informal teachers, teachers by instinct or example. And if I hadn't had those, my life, I'm sure, would have been very different. If I'd been born anyplace else, when I was born in 1930, and at the time, 1 out of 50 births in the world were in the United States. So I came in against 50 to 1 odds against being born in the United States. I would have been a disaster, if I'd been born in Afghanistan or Peru or someplace. I mean, I was extraordinary. I won the lottery the day I was born, by being born in this country. So have you. So we've all won the lottery in that respect, and that's just plain luck. I mean, and I was lucky to be born at this time. I mean, capital allocation is something that pays off extremely well in this society now, but it doesn't pay off in other societies, and it didn't pay off, many years ago. My friend Bill Gates says that if I was been born a few thousand years ago, I'd have been some animal's lunch. We are lucky. I mean, just imagine being born a couple hundred years ago with exactly the same talents and how far they would have taken you then. The average person today lives so much better than the richest person lived 100 or 150 years ago. So I met Gates on July 15th, 1991. I was out there for a 4th of July celebration with a friend. He tried to educate me about high tech, but he's a good teacher. But one thing he told me was that at the time, he said, you've got this model in your head of the world, and your model has time and distance as very limiting factors. And he said, they aren't limiting factors anymore. He said, the cost of talking to somebody around the world or getting your message in front of somebody or publishing it, he said, it's going to be zero. And they're so close to zero, it doesn't make any difference. And, that was revolutionary. But it's happening already in a very, very big way. And it's just, 8 years later, and it's exploding. So high tech, information technology, whatever you want to call it, is changing the world, and it's going to change it in a very, very big way. It'll change. That's one of the things I think about in businesses we buy. We announced the purchase yesterday of a furniture retailer in Boston, in the Boston area. And, I think to myself, what effect does this new world have in terms of the internet on furniture retailing? I mean, you have to think about questions like that. When I got out of school, I thought, everybody would behave that way, but they don't. Most people sort of go through life in a sleepwalk. And if you don't, you will stand out. So the biggest thing for your financial future is yourself. Now, beyond that, it is always being ahead of the game rather than getting behind the game. It's saving a little, no matter how you do it. I mean, I delivered papers, I worked at Penny's, I sold golf balls, I had a pinball machine around. I did a lot of things that enabled me to accumulate about $10,000 by the time I got out of school. In the end, people do what they want to do to quite a degree. And I think I've never talked to anybody that enjoyed working in civic activities that didn't feel where it was very worthwhile after they've done it. I mean, they built something, and participating in building something is always a lot of fun. And actually, you can have a good time. We have this golf tournament, for example, in September, and we raised some money for civic things, but everybody has a good time. So nobody's paying any price by doing it. I'm having a good time. The people who come are having a good time. And we get to show Omaha off to people. But you should be enjoying things as you go along, and you will if you work in civic activities that interest you. And you can do the same thing in politics. I mean, if you find political ideas or politicians who particularly you identify with, you can get a lot of self-satisfaction out of working, and you're doing something worthwhile. So I just follow your instincts on that. That'd be my recommendation.
在追求财务独立和职业成功的过程中，我们应该更加重视个人价值和长期盈利能力，而不仅仅是短期的财务收益。个人的诚信、智慧和能量是不可或缺的资质，这些品质不仅能够帮助我们在职业道路上取得成功，同时也是建立持久人际关系的基石。此外，我们的生活选择和习惯直接影响着我们的财务和个人幸福。选择做自己热爱的工作，不仅可以提升生活的满足感，还能在不知不觉中积累财富。同时，避免不必要的财务负担，如信用卡债务，是确保财务稳定和心理健康的关键。最终，通过培养正面的生活习惯和做出有意义的职业选择， 我们不仅能够实现个人的财务独立，更能在人生的旅途中找到真正的快乐和满足。这是一条通向成功和幸福的可行之路，值得我们每一个人认真思考和实践。